Welcome to Somatic Mindfulness, a guided moving meditation with yours truly, Dr. Adrienne Campbell. This practice is essentially a body scan, but we are going to add in some movement. Now, this can be practiced laying down, seated, or standing, though I will say that I most often practice this standing, as you can feel the shifts in gravity a little bit more strongly. Know that you can also start one way and then change your mind. So you can start seated, move to standing, move to laying down, whatever you'd like. There's no real rules here. At the end of the day, this is your practice and I am merely your guide. So go ahead and find that position, the one that you'd like to begin the practice in, whether that's laying down, seated, or standing. And once you get there, I invite you to just take a few moments to begin to center yourself. Now, what I mean by that is you can soften the gaze or close the eyes and allow your awareness to begin moving inward. You may want to wiggle or shake the body just to release any stored energy and just allow yourself to begin to fully arrive here in this moment. I invite you to move into the space, into the body without judgment. Just taking a moment to notice what we notice. And when you're ready, you can begin to bring your awareness to your breath. Not trying to control or change anything, but just noticing what we notice. Noticing as the air enters the body and how the sensations in the body change as you breathe in and then breathe out. Staying with the body, staying with the breath. And then when you're ready, I'm going to invite you to guide your awareness down into your left big toe. Very specifically, the left big toe. Just noticing what we notice in that left big toe. And if you'd like, you can wiggle that toe, because how often do we actually pay attention to the toe? Sometimes we need to move that part of our body to help guide our awareness into the area, and there's nothing wrong with that. So just noticing into that left big toe now. Noticing the temperature of the toe. And if the toe is against the ground, how does the bottom of the toe feel compared to the top of the toe? Is there any dampness or dryness? And if there's a lack of sensation, that's valid as well. So just noticing what we notice in that left big toe. And then when you're ready, allowing that awareness to move into the second toe. Again, if you want to wiggle that toe, you're welcome to do so. Just taking a moment to notice into that second toe. And then the third toe. And the fourth toe. And the fifth toe. And then noticing all the toes of the left foot together. Maybe you lift those toes and set them back down. Maybe you do this a couple times and just notice the sensations in the toes and how they shift and change when you do this. Lifting them up and setting them back down. And then allow that awareness to move into the bottom of the left foot, noticing the ball of the foot, the arch of the foot, the heel, and the outside edge of that left foot. Noticing how the weight is distributed differently between the different points of the foot. Maybe you notice a gap between the arch and the floor, and maybe not. And then very subtly, go ahead and shift your weight over towards the left. And when I say subtle, I'm talking like an inch or two. Very subtle, very slow, very gentle. And as you shift your weight towards the left, notice into the bottom of the foot. How does that change the sensations in the bottom of the foot? Are there areas that become heavier or lighter? How does the pressure shift and change? And as we come back to center, noticing into the bottom of the foot, what do you notice? And maybe we shift our weight over towards the right. And again, how do those sensations shift and change in the bottom of the left foot as we make these very subtle movements over toward the right? And then coming back to center. And then go ahead and allow that awareness to move to the top of the foot. Just taking a moment here, maybe noticing any differences in sensation between the top of the foot and the bottom of the foot. And then allowing that awareness to move up into the ankle. Just noticing what we notice for a moment in the left ankle. Perhaps we lift the toes. And just notice any sensations that shift or change in the ankle when you do so. And then we'll set the toes back down. And then allow your awareness to move up into the left shin and calf. Again, taking a moment to just notice what we notice. And now I'll invite you to shift your weight towards your toes, but don't even lift the heel. Again, very subtle movement. We're just shifting our weight forward. And notice how that feels in the shin and the calf. The left shin and calf. And then coming back to center. Noticing into the left knee, the front of the knee, the back of the knee, the inside and the outside. Taking a moment to maybe notice any difference between those areas of the knee. And then allowing your awareness to move up into the left thigh. Noticing the front, the back, the inside and the outside. Maybe you notice the inside of the thigh touching the other thigh. Maybe you notice fabric against the skin. So just noticing any sensations that are present in that left thigh. If you'd like, you can flex the quad muscle, that big muscle in the front of the thigh, and then release. And notice how that feels in the leg. And then allow your awareness to move up into the left hip. Now, if you'd like, you can touch the hip with your hand. But what I want you to do is keep your awareness in the hip, not the hand. So instead of thinking about, I'm touching my hip, I invite you to think, how does my hip feel to be touched? And so just noticing into that left hip for any sensations or lack of sensation. And again, maybe we shift our weight over towards the left, noticing how that shifts and changes, what we feel in the left hip. And then coming back to center. And then allowing that awareness to move across the pelvic girdle over into the right hip. Again, allowing yourself to touch the hip if you'd like, keeping our awareness in the hip. as we subtly shift our weight over toward the right, noticing what we notice in the right hip. And subtly shifting back to center. And if you're starting to get stiff at this point, I often do when I'm standing, go ahead and just wiggle and shake it out. Know that you can move and wiggle at any point during this meditation, and it's perfectly fine. All right, and then when you're ready, we're going to bring our awareness down into the right thigh, Again, noticing what we notice, the inside of the thigh, the outside, the front and the back. Noticing any sensations that are present. And maybe we give a slight bend in the knee and then straighten. And as we do, notice into that right thigh. How do sensations change when you give a slight bend in that right knee? And then coming back to relative stillness and allowing that awareness to move down into the right knee, noticing the inside of the knee, the outside, the front and the back. And now maybe we flex that quad muscle in the right thigh, but keep your awareness in the right knee. Notice what happens in the right knee if you flex that big muscle. And then letting that go. And allowing your awareness now to move down into the right shin and calf. Taking a moment to notice what we notice. Maybe we lift the toes and set them back down. Maybe we shift our weight forward, not even lifting the heels off the ground, just subtly shifting forward and noticing what that feels like in the right shin and calf. And then coming back to center, allowing your awareness to move down into that right ankle. And with your awareness in the right ankle, maybe we shift our weight over to the right again, but notice into the ankle as we do. And coming back to center, very subtle shift over towards the left. And then back to center. And then allow that awareness to move down into the top of the right foot. Maybe we wiggle the toes of the right foot. See if we notice the tendons moving under the skin of the top of the right foot. And then allowing that awareness to move down into the bottom of the right foot, noticing the ball, the heel, the arch, and the outside edge of the right foot. Noticing how the weight is distributed differently between these points. And if we subtly shift our weight over toward the right, what changes in the bottom of the foot? No judgment here, just noticing what we notice, right? Coming back to center. And then allowing that awareness to move down into the big toe, the right big toe. Taking a moment again to notice what we notice in that right big toe. And then the second toe. Allowing yourself to wiggle or move however you'd like. The third toe. The fourth toe. And the fifth toe. And then all of the toes together. Maybe we lift them, set them back down. Just noticing any sensations or the lack of sensation. And then allowing that awareness to come all the way back up the leg, into the hips, and then into the lower abdomen. Again, if you'd like to touch the body, you're free to do so. We're just keeping that awareness in the lower abdomen. Taking a moment to notice what we notice here. And then the mid-abdomen, the upper abdomen. Maybe you notice some digestion if you've eaten recently, or hunger if you haven't. And no judgment here. Again, just noticing what we notice, noticing the sensations that are present in the abdomen. And then allowing that awareness to move up into the chest. And with our awareness in the chest, I invite you to also begin to notice the breath. Noticing your inhale and your exhale. Allowing your inhale to become longer and slower. Maybe it also becomes deeper. And as you breathe in, noticing into the chest as you do. Noticing the lungs fill, the ribs expand, the chest expand. And on the exhale, feeling the chest fall, the ribs knit back together as the lungs let the air go. And we'll take a few breaths like this, just noticing into the chest. Nice deep inhale. And then see if you can make your exhale just a little bit longer than the inhale. Nice deep inhale. Long, slow exhale. Nice deep inhale. Long, slow exhale. And we'll take one more of these extended exhale breaths. Again, noticing into the chest as we do, expanding the belly, expanding the ribs. And on the exhale, noticing everything settle back down. And then go ahead and release any control over your breath, just returning to your natural breathing pattern. And then I'm going to invite your awareness up over the shoulders into the upper back. And with your awareness in the upper back, maybe we draw those shoulder blades together and notice how that feels in the upper back. What sensations are present? And when you release the shoulder blades, how do those change? And then allowing that awareness to move down to the mid and lower back. And if you'd like, you can allow your body to just gently move in a twist from side to side. Allow the shoulders to lead the movement as you gently turn left and then back to center and then turning right. Just allowing a little bit of minor spinal rotation here, noticing into the mid and lower back as we do. And we want to keep the movement subtle. If we start getting too big at our movements, it becomes very difficult to pay attention to the inside of the body. Our awareness immediately goes outside because it's an effort to keep us safe. So keep those movements subtle. And then coming back to center, allowing that awareness to move into the left side body. So that area between the hip and the armpit. Just noticing into that left side body from the hip to the armpit. And if you allow the right shoulder to drop, nice and slow, how does that change the sensation in that left side body? And lifting the right shoulder back up. And maybe lowering the left shoulder. Noticing how that feels in the left side body. And then coming back to center. Moving our awareness over to the right side body. From the right hip to the right armpit. Again, maybe we allow the right shoulder to move downward. Kind of curving the body here. And coming back to center, allowing the left shoulder to move downward. Really expanding that right side body here for a moment and just noticing the sensations that are present. And gently coming back to center. And then allowing that awareness to move up into the left shoulder. And maybe we give that shoulder a few circles. Very slow, very subtly in one direction, and then the other. Again, no judgment here, just noticing what we notice. And I often say that around the shoulder because I've torn my shoulder a few times. So when I do circles, I hear clicking and a little grinding. So it would be easy for me to judge, right? But that's not what we're doing here. We're just noticing. So I notice the clicks, I notice the grinding, and I breathe in and I breathe out. And then we're going to guide that awareness down into the upper arm. And as we move into the arm, you can move that arm however you'd like. You can lift it up above your head, in front of your body, behind your body, out to the side. Explore a range of motion in whatever way feels good for you. Just remember, keep it subtle and keep it slow. So moving down the arm now into that upper left arm. Noticing whatever sensations are present in that left upper arm. And then the left elbow. Noticing the inside of the elbow and the outside of the elbow. And maybe we bend the arm and notice how those sensations change. And then moving down into the left forearm. Perhaps we flex the wrist. And notice how that shifts the sensations in the left forearm. And then noticing into the wrist itself. Maybe we move that hand in a few circles in one direction and then the other. And then noticing into the hand, the palm of the hand and the back of the hand. Taking a moment now to notice any differences between the palm and the back of the hand. Temperature, feeling tone, anything that's present or not. And then noticing into all of the fingers on the left hand. Maybe we make a fist and then release. Maybe you spread those fingers wide and then release. And then allow that awareness to come back up the left arm into the shoulder, across the collarbones and over into the right shoulder, where we'll give that right shoulder a moment just to notice what we notice. And then perhaps we do a few circles with the right shoulder, moving first in one direction and then the other. Taking our time here, being slow, being gentle, just noticing what we notice. And then moving down into the upper arm, the right upper arm, noticing any sensations are present there as we explore range of movement in the arm, however you'd like. And then into the right elbow. Again, maybe we bend the arm and then straighten it back out. Noticing what we notice. And then the right forearm. Perhaps you flex the wrist here. Noticing how that feels in the forearm. And then moving our awareness into the right wrist. Perhaps we allow the hand a few circles in one direction and then the other. And then down into the hand, noticing the palm of the right hand and the back of the right hand. Noticing any differences in sensation between the two areas of the hand. And then maybe we make a fist and relax. Maybe we spread the fingers wide and relax. And then allow that awareness to come back up that right arm, across the shoulder and into the neck. Noticing the front of the neck, the back of the neck, the left side and the right side. And when you're ready, maybe you allow the right ear to gently move toward the right shoulder. No big stretch here. This is just a gentle movement of the right ear toward the right shoulder, gently elongating that left side of the neck and putting a little bit of compression on the right. So just noticing into the sensations of the neck. How do these different areas of the neck feel right now? What do you notice? And then bringing the head back to center and allowing the left ear to move towards the left shoulder. Elongating the right side of the neck now. And again, noticing what we notice. And you may have already begun to notice that the different sides of the body don't always feel the same. That's very, very common. Again, no judgment, right? We just notice what we notice. And then bringing the head back to center. Maybe we allow that chin to move down towards the chest. Now elongating the back of the neck. Remembering to be very delicate and very gentle with the neck. Just noticing what we notice. One more breath here. And then we'll go ahead and raise that head back to center. And then if you'd like, go ahead and look up towards the ceiling, towards the sky. Noticing what we notice in the neck from this position. And then when you're ready, coming back to center. And then allowing that awareness to move into the back of the head, the top of the head, the left side and the right side. Noticing into the jaw. Maybe we open and close the mouth a few times. Noticing the chin and the lips. Maybe we smack the lips together or curl them under our teeth. Just noticing the sensations in the lips. Maybe we allow the tongue a moment to rest away from the roof of the mouth. Noticing the sensations of the mouth. And then allowing that awareness to move up into the nose. Maybe you wiggle the nose like a bunny rabbit. And then into the cheeks. Perhaps you smile really, really big and really stretch those cheeks out. And then release. And just notice how that feels in the face. And then allow that awareness to move up into the eyes, noticing the eyelids, the eyelashes. Maybe you blink them very slowly, open and closed a few times. Noticing into the eyebrows. Perhaps you wiggle them or draw them in towards one another. Maybe you lift them high on the forehead. And then noticing into the forehead. Just noticing what you notice. And then, of course, the left ear and the right ear. And if you can and you'd like, go ahead and wiggle those too. And then allow your awareness to encompass the entire head. And then moving down to encompass the upper body and the lower body. Noticing your entire body now, from the top of your head to your shoulders, to your hips, to your fingertips. Just noticing any sensations that are present with no judgment, not trying to control anything. Just taking a moment to notice into the body. Just noticing what we notice. And maybe we shift our weight over toward the right. And notice how the sensations in the body change as you do so. Coming back to center. And maybe we shift over towards the left for a moment. Again, noticing the sensations throughout the body as we do so. And coming back to center. Maybe we shift our weight forward towards our toes. And back to center. And maybe we shift back towards our heels. And you may notice sensations that are not only physical, but maybe even a bit of emotion. Sometimes when I shift my weight back towards my heels, I get a little feeling, even though I know I'm not going to fall. There's still a little bit of that shows up, right? The way that we feel can shift and change based on how our body is being positioned. So coming back to center now, and then just allowing yourself to move however you'd like in this moment. Just exploring a little bit of movement in the body. Again, keep it subtle, keep it gentle, but just noticing how you're feeling in this moment. Noticing the sensations that are present, and as you move your body, how those shift and change. And we'll take just another moment here, allowing for any type of free-form movement you'd like. And then when you're ready, we'll come back to a place of stillness. And I invite you to come back to the breath, noticing your inhale and noticing your exhale. Not trying to change or control it, just noticing the breath. Now our time together is coming to an end. When you're ready, if your eyes are not already open, please feel free to flutter them open. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I wish the absolute best for you. And I hope we meet again. Take care.